Atlanta's night hummed like a distant generator outside their brick townhome in Old Fourth Ward. Craig lay awake, staring at the pale blue light slipping from beneath the study door. The keys clicked, a steady rhythm he had learned to resent. Vera's laptop was a second heartbeat in their home, steady, reliable, always present, even when she wasn't. He rose, padded barefoot down the hallway, and stood by the door. The smell of coffee floated out, rich and bitter. He knocked lightly and pushed it open. "Babe, it's 1 a.m. Vera didn't look up. "Just one more revision. The Paris account needs numbers before the Europe call. You said that yesterday." His voice landed soft, almost apologetic. He couldn't remember the last time they'd laughed at an inside joke or argued about a movie. Vera finally looked up, the weariness in her eyes almost tender. "I know. I'm trying." Craig nodded, unsure what to do with his hands. He wanted to touch her shoulder but felt like an intruder. "You coming to bed?" "In a bit." He left the door open and returned to their room. The house made soft night sounds, AC turning on, a drip under the sink, a car sweeping past on Highland Avenue. He noticed light under another door, Lina's room. A quiet rustle. The maid was probably placing laundry in tidy stacks, folding the children's T-shirts into perfect squares. She always hummed when she worked, him she said reminded her of home. Craig closed his eyes and tried to hear his wife's laughter in the keys clicking. It didn't work. Vera kept a color-coded calendar. Blue for meetings, yellow for travel, green for family. The green squares looked like shy islands in a sea of blue. She studied her week at 6 a.m., morning light barely touching the granite countertops. Coffee steamed beside her, untouched. Lina floated through the kitchen with a basket of the children's uniforms. "Good morning, ma'am." "Morning, Lina," Vera replied, eyes still on the screen. "The kids' parent-teacher conference is Thursday. Craig can go." "I'll remind him," Lina said, gentle. Vera's phone buzzed. Another email, another decision. The company had put a lot on her shoulders. She was good at carrying weight. It started young, firstborn daughter, scholarship kid, woman in rooms that didn't expect her. She understood pressure the way some people understood music. But pressure had edges. It shaved away time, softness, evenings, rest, touch. It made her body feel like a machine. And sometimes, often, she didn't have anything left at night. Craig would reach for her, and she would say, "Not today," hating the small flinch in his eyes. "Ma'am." Lina's voice drew her back. "I ordered groceries. Low-sodium broth like doctor suggested for Craig's blood pressure." "Thank you," Vera murmured. Guilt tapped her shoulder. Craig had made dinner reservations twice last month. She canceled both, client dinner, flight delay. He didn't argue. He didn't even sigh anymore. Vera closed her laptop. "I'll be home early Friday." Lina's smile was kind. "They'll love that." Vera wished kindness could fix everything. She wished her own life obeyed schedules as perfectly as her calendar did. Lina's humming filled the afternoons. Words from an old hymn braided with the scent of lemon cleaner and fresh bread. She was careful, precise, and almost invisible when needed. The kids adored her. Craig respected her. Vera paid her well and kept her insured. But Lina carried her own quiet story. She had come from a life that demanded patience, a grandmother who taught her to pray when the roof leaked, an aunt who taught her to iron creases into shirts like promises. She believed homes could heal if you cared for them long enough. When Craig came back from dropping the kids at soccer, she had sweet tea ready. He smiled. "You always know the cure." "For what?" she asked. "Atlanta heat," he said, and they both laughed softly. She noticed his pauses. The way he looked at the front door before opening it, as if hoping to find someone he missed. She noticed the hope vanish if the living room was empty. She noticed the silence in grown-up voices at night, the lonely air that formed when words went unused. She didn't pity them. She admired them, two hard-working people trying not to drown. But houses go quiet for many reasons. Sometimes the quiet is grief. Sometimes it is hunger. She hummed louder that night, as if music might keep the walls from swallowing the family whole. Weeks became months. Craig tried to be patient. He bought Vera flowers more than once. He planned a weekend in Savannah that turned into her flying to Dallas for a last-minute strategy session. At night, he lay next to her scrolling photos of the kids and then, guiltily, old pictures of them together. Smiles wide, hands clasped, forehead kisses in elevator mirrors. "Let's talk," he tried one evening. "Tomorrow," she whispered, eyes closed, thumb grazing his knuckles, exhausted. He wanted to believe tomorrow. But tomorrow had gotten good at becoming Monday, and Mondays became months. After 3 months of not tonight, something inside him turned brittle and foolish. One late Saturday, rain scribbled on the windows and the TV's glow tinted the room blue. Vera had texted, "Still in Buckhead. Final review. Don't wait up." Craig paced the kitchen and opened the fridge just to shut it again. He went to the hallway to pick up the laundry. The door to Lina's room was ajar. The light inside was warm and low. He saw the edge of a dress hanging from the bathroom door, deep red, clingy. He looked away, and then didn't. Lina stepped out, surprised, in that same dress. "Mr. Craig, I didn't know anyone was up." He swallowed, 100 right choices flashing by like exits he refused to take. "Couldn't sleep." She folded her arms, suddenly aware of the dress. "I was just trying it on. For church." He laughed, too harsh. "That's not a church dress." Silence stretched. Lina's eyes softened, but not in seduction, in concern. "You okay?" "I don't know," he said, the truth ripping out. "I don't feel married. Not lately." She didn't touch him. She spoke gently. "She loves you." He nodded, pain rising like a wave. "I know." What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't noble, or even passionate. It was hunger colliding with availability, loneliness mistaking kindness for invitation, a terrible storm brewing in a quiet house. And though Lina wanted to step back, to say no, she didn't. She was human. He was human. The line blurred. Later, Craig sat on the edge of her bed, head in hands, the hymn now a broken whisper. "What have I done?" Lina stared at her palms, as if truth had stained them. "We have to stop." They didn't. Not that night. Not the next week. Secrets feed themselves. It became a routine as precise as Vera's calendar. When the children were at piano and Vera texted running late, Craig and Lina made tea they never finished. They had quiet laughter that tasted like guilt. They had a wordless way of pausing whenever a car slowed outside, whenever a floorboard creaked. Lina hated it. She hated the way she looked at herself in the mirror afterward and didn't recognize the woman in her own eyes. She wrote scriptures on sticky notes and hid them in drawers. She scrubbed the oven as if heat could purify her choices. Craig hated it, too. Every time he reached for Lina, he thought of his wedding day, Vera's veil blowing in the church parking lot, his hand steadying her, Vera saying, "We'll be the couple that chooses each other on purpose." He had stopped choosing, or chosen the wrong thing. And yet, he kept going. He told himself he was starving, that men in quiet houses make foolish bargains. He told himself he would confess, one day, on a good morning, after coffee, before a meeting, never today. Lina started to avoid mirrors. She started to avoid music. Even her humming died. The house noticed. Saturday night. The kids were asleep, yawns buried in blankets, nightlight glowing. The city outside was loud with laughter and lifted bass. Craig's phone buzzed. Flight delayed. Home tomorrow morning. Love you. He stared at the message a long time. Lina stood in the doorway, wearing a robe that wasn't red. They didn't speak. They moved with the inertia of bad habits. Half an hour later, a key turned in the front door. Vera stepped into the foyer, suitcase rolling behind her, rain in her hair, eyes soft with a surprise she'd been saving. She'd come home early. She wanted to try. She wanted green squares to win. She climbed the stairs, quiet, smiling at the thought of curling into Craig's chest. She opened the bedroom door, empty. Bathroom, empty. She moved down the hallway. Lina's door was ajar. The light was on. Vera pressed her palm to the frame and pushed. The world cleaved. Craig. Her voice didn't sound like hers. He sprang up, guilt naked on his face, stammering. Lina clutched the sheet, eyes wet, lips forming apologies that had no shape. Vera's suitcase slipped from her hand. The sound of it falling was louder than the thunder outside. She stepped back. The hallway tilted. She pressed her palm to the wall to stop the spin. Get out. She wasn't sure which name the command belonged to. No one moved. She whispered again, but the whisper hurt more. Get out. Craig reached for her. Impulse, habit, love, fear. She stepped away as if his fingers were fire. Don't. In the silent seconds after, all three understood. Nothing would ever be the same. The night held them hostage. Craig slept in the guest room, though slept was generous. He watched the ceiling, counting shame like cracks in paint. Lina packed a small bag at dawn. She met Vera at the bottom of the stairs. "Ma'am," she started, voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I will leave." Vera's eyes were swollen but steady. "You can collect your pay through the month. I'll send it. Don't come back." Lina nodded, tears slipping. "I loved this home. I failed it." Vera's jaw clenched. She said nothing. The children woke to a house that had changed its temperature. They ate cereal in an unusual silence. Craig tried to smile and looked like a man pretending to be his own picture. When Vera finally spoke to him, it was in the kitchen, morning light harsh, dishes still wet. "How long?" He swallowed. "A few months." "Do I even know you?" He covered his face. "I was lonely." "It's not an excuse." "No," she said, voice almost gentle. "It's not." He reached for the counter to steady himself. "I'll do anything. Counseling. Confession. Separation, if that's what you need." Vera looked at him for a long time, seeing not just the betrayal but the man she had loved. The way he had rocked their babies to sleep, the way he had ironed her blouse at 6 a.m. before her first big pitch. History did not excuse the present. But history was real. "I need air," she said. "And space." He nodded, tears unspooling. "I'll move out." "No," she said, surprising both of them. "The kids need normal. You'll sleep in the guest room. We'll tell them we're working through something." He nodded again. He would have accepted any sentence she gave. In the weeks that followed, Atlanta felt bigger, colder. Vera went to work but stopped answering casual texts. She deleted old photos and then restored them, unable to erase the proof that love had once been easy. She ran around Piedmont Park at dawn until her lungs burned. She bought a journal and wrote one question over and over. What does repair look like? Craig started therapy on Edgewood, a modest office with soft chairs and hard truths. "I betrayed my vows," he told Dr. Klein. "But I also betrayed my own name." "Loneliness is real," the therapist said. "So is choice. We'll sit with both." He learned to hold shame without letting it devour him. He learned to say, "I'm sorry," and leave it bare, no decorating it with reasons. He wrote Vera a letter he never sent. He wrote another shorter one he placed on her nightstand. "You deserved my patience. You will get it now." Lina moved into a small apartment off Memorial Drive. She took a job at a bakery, hands in flour by 5 a.m. She sent Vera a final text that said, "I will not darken your door again. I am seeking God and accountability. I am so sorry." She did not expect a reply. She did not get one. Some nights, Lina sat on her floor and cried for what she had broken, not only in the marriage but in herself. She started attending a small church where the pastor preached about mercy like it was a garden that needed tending. She watered it with her own tears. The Saturday came when pretending wasn't love. Vera and Craig sat the kids down in the living room. The youngest swung her feet. The oldest watched his parents' faces like a weather forecast. "We're okay," Vera began, voice calm but tender. "But Mommy and Daddy hurt each other. We're talking to helpers to make our hearts better." Is it about Miss Lina? The oldest asked, surprising them both. Kids notice everything adults hope they won't. Craig inhaled. Miss Lina made a mistake with Daddy. Daddy made a bigger mistake. Will we see her again? No, Vera said quietly. The youngest leaned into Vera's side. Are you mad? I'm very sad, she said. And sometimes angry. But I love you. And Daddy loves you. That won't change. Afterward, when the kids went upstairs, Craig stood by the window. You protected me even in that, he whispered. Vera shook her head. I protected them. She paused. And maybe I protected the small part of me that still wants you to be the man I married. Craig's voice cracked. I want that too. I'm trying. Trying starts with waiting, she said. Wait for me to feel safe. Church was complicated. Vera skipped 3 Sundays, then went alone. People hugged her without asking questions. A few asked questions without offering hugs. She found a quiet spot in the back and cried during the benediction. Craig started showing up to a men's group. No posturing, no titles, just honesty. He said his name and what he had done. He listened to older men speak of walls rebuilt 1 brick at a time. He drove home in silence, hands at 10 and 2, like a student who finally realized the road is dangerous. Lina kept her head down at the bakery. The owner, Ms. Dottie, noticed her sadness but didn't pry. One morning, after Lina worked her 8th consecutive shift without a single hummed note, Ms. Dottie slid a small jar across the counter. Sourdough starter, she said. You feed it, it grows. You neglect it, it collapses. Hearts are like that. Lina smiled for the first time in weeks. That Sunday, she sang softly in church, just the chorus. Consequences remained. Craig slept in the guest room. Vera changed her phone's lock screen. They stopped wearing their rings for a while. It wasn't punishment, it was truth-telling. Some symbols need silence before they can speak again. One evening, Vera stood at the kitchen window watching rain darken the driveway. Craig came in from the garage, shoulders tired. She didn't turn. Why, Lina? He didn't answer quickly. Because she was there. Because I felt invisible and she saw me. Because I'm weaker than I thought. Vera faced him, eyes steady. Was it love? No. It was need pretending to be love. She held his gaze a long time. I met with a counselor too, she said. She told me forgiveness isn't a door you fling open, it's a door you unlock a little each day. I'll wait in the hallway, he whispered. I also have my part, she said, voice softer. I abandoned this house to my calendar. I didn't cheat, but I left you hungry. I can own that without excusing you. Tears pooled in his eyes. I never wanted my hunger to be an accusation against your success. That's not what it was, she said. It was an invitation I ignored. And also, there are seasons when sex dries up because bodies and jobs and grief take everything. I should have said that out loud and reached for you in other ways. The rain eased. The house breathed. They stood there, 2 people admitting where they'd gone missing. It didn't fix the past, but it drew a map forward. They set boundaries like building codes for a city they hoped to rebuild. Phones down after 9 p.m. unless emergency. Standing Thursday night. No work, no meetings. Just them. Therapy weekly. Together. Non-negotiable. Check-ins. How's your heart? Not just, how was your day? Clear signals when intimacy wasn't possible. A kiss, a hug, a promise for tomorrow. Vera sent a short message to HR declining a Paris rotation that would have swallowed 6 months. Not a never, she wrote. A not now. The email cost her something. It gave her something else. Craig deleted Lina's number. He already had, but this time he sent a copy of his phone bill to their counselor and Vera without being asked. He wanted to be transparent in a way that made secrecy impossible. Lina, on her side of the city, wrote a letter to herself. Do not return to houses that confuse your goodness. Your gifts are for service, not for soothing married aches. You are not a repair for broken vows. She folded it and put it in her Bible. Months passed. Spring shook dogwoods into bloom. One Saturday morning, Lina stood outside the townhome with an envelope. She had wrestled with whether to come. She had finally asked her pastor, who said, "Make amends if it will not cause more harm." She prayed, waited a month, and now here she was. Craig opened the door. His face paled, then settled into humility. "Lina, I'm sorry to show up without asking," she said. "I won't come in. I came to give this to Ms. Vera." Vera stepped into the doorway, composed, wary. Lina extended the envelope. "It's a letter, no excuses, only confession and apology. I also brought the house key." Vera studied her. The kids' laughter floated from upstairs like a fragile bridge between worlds. "Thank you," Vera said finally, taking the envelope. "We're working on things." "I'm glad," Lina whispered. "I pray for your family every morning." Vera swallowed. "I pray for you too." Lina blinked, startled. "Thank you." They stood there, three people who had shared a mistake and were now sharing a doorway. No one stepped closer. No one slammed the door. Lina turned to leave. "Lina," Craig called softly. She paused without turning. "I'm sorry." "I know," she said. "Be well." She walked away, and for the first time in months, she found herself humming again. Repair arrived like morning light, so gradual you don't notice until the room is bright. Craig and Vera cooked together on Thursdays, misreading recipes and laughing at burnt toast. He learned her favorite wines. She learned his new therapy insights. They put their rings back on one quiet Sunday. No ceremony. Just a choice. Some nights, intimacy returned. It wasn't fireworks. It was a small fire in winter, carefully tended. They talked more. They prayed some. They sat on the porch and listened to trains slide through the city. The children, who always knew more than adults imagined, relaxed back into their jokes. There were setbacks. A song on the radio. A commercial about business travel. A late email that made Vera's laptop glow too long. Each time, they caught themselves and returned to the boundaries. "Phone's down," Craig would say. "You coming to bed?" "Yes," Vera would answer. And she would. On their anniversary, they went to a small restaurant in Inman Park. No grand speeches, just hands entwined. At dessert, Vera inhaled, then exhaled. "I forgive you." Craig's eyes filled. "Thank you." She held his gaze. "And I forgive me, too, for believing I had to choose between the life I built and the love I vowed." He squeezed her hand. "We can build both." They walked out into the Atlanta night, which hummed as always. This time, its music matched the rhythm of their footsteps. Years later, when asked about that season, the children did not remember the details adults considered central. They remembered Thursday nights. Spaghetti too salty, a board game with missing pieces, the way Mom and Dad leaned into each other when they laughed. They remembered family walks by the Beltline when the air smelled like rain and street tacos. They remembered a Sunday morning when the pastor said, "Forgiveness is an architecture. It has pillars, truth, repentance, time, and tenderness." They didn't know why their parents squeezed each other's hands then, but they remembered the squeeze. They did not remember Lina's face with anger. They remembered her pancakes and how she tied shoelaces so they never came undone. They remembered a Christmas card that came once with no return address, signed only, "Be well." Homes do not forget, but they can be retuned. On a spring evening, Craig and Vera renewed their vows in the backyard. No guests, just the kids and an oak tree. Craig wore a simple suit. Vera wore a cream dress that caught the light. Craig spoke first. "I failed you. I broke our trust. I am not proud of that chapter, but I am grateful for the pages after, where your courage met my repentance. I promise faithfulness with my body, my eyes, my words, and my time. I promise to choose you on purpose." Vera's voice trembled but did not break. "I loved you then. I love you now. Differently, more honestly. I promise truth even when it's heavy, presence even when work is loud, tenderness even when my body is tired. I promise to protect the small things that keep love alive. They exchanged rings again, not as a reset but as a renewal. The children clapped. Someone's phone played a song by accident, and everyone laughed. Inside, Vera closed her laptop at 9 without checking one more email. Craig washed dishes without being asked. The house felt like it had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. Across town, Lina tended a small balcony garden, herbs and cherry tomatoes in mismatched pots. She had apologized all the ways a person could. She had forgiven herself slower than she expected, but forgiveness arrived anyway, like seedlings through soil. She worked mornings at the bakery and took classes in the afternoons, early childhood education. She wanted to build a career that let her love children without borrowing anyone's vows to feel useful. One day, Ms. Dottie asked, "You ever think of starting a little weekend program? Baking with kids?" Lina smiled, surprised by joy. "I have." She wrote a plan. She prayed over it. She named it Small Hands, Big Aprons. The first Saturday, 6 children showed up. They left with sugar on their noses and pride in their pockets. Lina hummed as she washed bowls, the hymn whole again. Craig kept the short apology he'd given Vera in a drawer. He read it sometimes before bed, reminding himself not to forget the cost of grace. He also kept another letter, one he wrote but never sent, addressed to the man he had been. "You were lonely, yes. But you were also loved. Learn to say what you need before the need becomes a secret." Vera kept Lina's envelope in a box with sympathy cards, birth announcements, and ticket stubs from concerts. Life rarely sorted itself neatly into categories. That envelope sat among joys and griefs, a reminder that what breaks us can still bend toward light. Lina kept a photo a child drew of her at the bakery. Stick figure with a giant apron and music notes floating above. The caption said, "Miss Lina makes dough sing." She pinned it above her sink. Vera's calendar changed, not because work vanished but because she learned to say no in service of a better yes. Green squares multiplied, not recklessly, but purposefully. She still traveled. She still excelled. But she stopped telling herself that love could be scheduled later like an optional meeting. On a Tuesday, she texted Craig, early home. "Want to walk?" "Always," he replied. They walked past murals and food trucks, kids on scooters, a busker singing Al Green. Craig slipped his hand into hers. "Thank you for forgiving me," he said. "Thank you for staying to earn it," she replied. They passed a family chasing a kite that wouldn't fly. The father laughed and tried again. The kite caught wind and lifted. Everyone cheered, strangers cheering for strangers. Craig and Vera stopped to watch, grinning like kids. Sometimes joy is borrowed, sometimes it's shared. The house learned new sounds, chops on a cutting board, a timer dinging, a child practicing piano, soft laughter after bedtime. On some nights, when work threatened to swell, Vera closed her laptop and placed it gently on the shelf like something precious that wasn't meant to be worshipped. Craig still attended his group. He still checked his motives like mirrors. He still apologized quickly when old habits knocked. On a warm evening in July, they hosted friends. Someone asked how they were doing. Craig glanced at Vera. She nodded. He said, "We're rebuilding. It's good work." Later, when the guests left and the dishwasher hummed, Vera wrapped her arms around Craig's waist from behind. He covered her hands with his. They stood still, feeling the ordinary wonder of being two people in a kitchen with nothing to hide. "Listen," she whispered. "To what?" "To the house," she said, smiling into his shoulder. "It's singing again." Craig closed his eyes. He heard it, love, plain and sturdy as a hymn. He turned, kissed her forehead, and let gratitude settle like evening. The city outside kept humming its endless song, and at last, the rhythm inside their home matched it. Not perfect, not easy, but true.